if the one thing quietly destroying your peace is how available you are to everyone? Not your schedule, not your workload. You, your energy, your attention, your emotional presence, handed out freely to anyone who asks. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you stop doing that. Most of us were taught that being a good person means being there for others. Answer the call. Reply to the message. Show up when needed. And while that is not wrong, there is a version of it that slowly hollows you out. You become the person everyone calls when they need something. The reliable one. The available one. And on the surface, that sounds like a compliment. But underneath it, something else is happening. Your time gets filled with other people's priorities. Your energy gets spent on other people's emergencies. And your own needs, they wait. They always wait. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Constant availability is not a virtue. It is a pattern. And often it comes from fear. Fear of being seen as selfish. Fear of conflict. Fear that if you are not useful, you will not be valued. So what actually happens when you stop being so available? First, people panic, briefly, because they have gotten used to you. You have trained them, without realizing it, to expect immediate access to your time and energy. When that changes, there is friction. And that friction feels uncomfortable. It might even feel like you are doing something wrong. You are not. Second, the quality of your relationships shifts. Some people adjust and respect the new dynamic. They reach out with more intention. Conversations become more meaningful because they are no longer constant and casual. They become chosen, and others fade. And here is the hard part. That fading tells you something important. Some connections were built entirely on your availability, not on genuine mutual care. When you are no longer endlessly accessible, they have nothing left to stand on. Third, and this is the quiet miracle, you start coming back to yourself. You have silence again, space to think, room to feel what you actually feel, not just respond to what everyone else is feeling. Carl Jung spoke about psychic energy, the idea that we each have a limited reserve of inner resources. Every interaction, every emotional exchange, every time you show up for someone, it draws from that reserve. And if you never stop to refill it, you do not just get tired, you lose yourself. Piece by piece, interaction by interaction, you become a version of yourself built entirely around others' needs. Jung called this living in the persona, performing a role so consistently that you forget there is a real self underneath it. When you stop being available to everyone, you stop living in the persona. You start asking, what do I actually want? What matters to me? What kind of relationships do I truly want to have? Those are not selfish questions, they are essential ones. And most people never ask them because they are too busy being available to notice they have stopped asking. Now, and this matters, pulling back does not mean building walls. It does not mean becoming cold or distant or unavailable to everyone forever. It means becoming intentional. It means choosing where your energy goes rather than letting it be taken. It means showing up fully for the people and things that genuinely matter because you have stopped draining yourself on everything that does not. There is a profound difference between someone who is always available and someone who is deeply present when they choose to be. The first spreads themselves thin across everything. The second shows up with their whole self because they have protected enough of themselves to actually give something real. That is the version of you people will genuinely value, not the version that responds instantly, agrees easily, and never says no, but the version that shows up with intention, with boundaries, and with actual depth. When you stop being available to everyone, everything changes. Odi, your time feels like yours again. Your relationships either deepen or reveal themselves. Your inner world gets quiet enough to hear what you actually need. And slowly, you stop living for the notifications, the requests, the needs of the endless queue, and start living for something more important. Yourself. That is not selfish. That is survival. That is wisdom. And it starts the moment you decide that your energy is valuable and act like it.